Hey everyone, welcome to Spiritual Journey. My name is Colleen Jorgensen, and we're going to talk about this next lunation, which is going to be a total lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. It's a North Node lunar eclipse, and so we're already in eclipse season as we exit August and enter September. And this eclipse, this full moon, is going to happen on September 7th at 12:09 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, Central Standard Time, 11:09 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and 2:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, this eclipse energy that we're falling into for all of the month of September, and it's called eclipse season, can create this energy that's a little wonky. It's a little more electrifying, and it kind of throws us around a bit because eclipses are points in the energy of our lives that are pivotal. They create an energy which produces change and shifts within our lives. And these are times of important events, whether that is positive or negative or how it's viewed. The North Node is most likely more positive energy filtering in than the South Node. But these eclipses come in pairs. So we always have a North Node and a South Node, or a South Node and then a North Node. So the full moon that's happening here on the 7th is North Node eclipse. And for me, these are like swinging doors that open and close to various opportunities that can be available, but also endings, and to release energy that you're finished up with and things are over. Even if we don't really want to lose something, sometimes it's necessary for the progression of our lives. And this, depending on where it's landing in your chart, it can be the ending of a relationship, the ending of a source of revenue, the ending of a personal way that of being physically or mentally, the ending of a job or relationships in terms of friends. So these are pivotal moments of time. With the North Node, you can get major events like marriages, birth announcements, and major pivotal graduations points. But at the same time, always as we gain, we also release to make room for something new in our lives. So as we are entering in September, at the end of August, we have Uranus now in retrograde and Pluto now in retrograde. And they are in trine. That means they're working harmoniously and exchanging energy with one another in a very positive way. They're 120 degrees apart. So we have Uranus sitting over there in that piece of the pie in Gemini, and we have Pluto over here in that piece of the pie in Aquarius. And they are compatible. They are comfortable with each other's energy, and they're assisting each other to produce an easy flow that just naturally works. So you've been in those positions in life where it just falls into place and everything seems quite easy through a transition. So these two are also plugging in, and it's a big deal astrologically that Saturn and Neptune have come together. And these two are now sitting at the apex, or the midpoint between Uranus and Pluto. And it's all very positive. That's going to open up. What do I really want? Says Aries. Who am I? And how can I manifest my dreams into my reality. And Pluto over there in Aquarius is who's going to assist me to do this? And Uranus, maybe I've got to think out of the box or think differently in order for this to be created. So we have this beautiful energy that's funneling into that point, and it's a pivotal point in time. Now we've got the eclipse on top of this in the sign of Pisces, which is saying, how do I feel about it? The emotions, the sensitivities that are opening up to me and the possibilities. Do you know some of our greatest art and our greatest music and stuff was birthed out of an altered state of being with Neptune or the victimization of Pluto? Those really deep seated energies that fall within our emotional state. And so Pisces opens us up to new belief systems, to new spirituality, new ways of dealing with sensitivities that we perhaps weren't aware of. And Pisces, this is an opening. So we can really sort of tap in to some of those energies of Pisces, which are pivotal within the landscape of our lives. To be the things that are hidden to us all of a sudden are revealed or they open up. Secrets begin to pop out of our lives to make us more aware with Uranus and the other energies of what exactly is going on. And the victimization, if we were victimized in any way, and how we heal from this victimization under the umbrella of the Pisces Virgo axis, which is really about healing. There's isolation and escape with Pisces, new avenues that can be opened up for us to find that healing and the health that we need. We can have breakthroughs here with pharma, new drugs coming on board that can actually really assist us in advancements in sciences. It's very holistic. New facilities could be built for drugs, drug addictions, alcohol, and this form of meditation of just being who we are in the moment of every moment in life. So this is a very spiritual sign, and having a lunar eclipse here in this very sensitive area makes us more emotional to what is going on and how we're dealing with it. And we could also open up to new psychic realms, angelic realms, and miracles that can happen under Pisces. Eclipses are very strange events sometimes, and sometimes they get a little weird. And weird is kind of what is associated with Neptune. The North Node, there's gains generally, but because of the polarization, we also have the Virgo energy that is manifesting here as well. So the medical system is going to be, no doubt, top of mind. And with new foundations, as we release old ways, psychological ways, perhaps, of dealing with health, and new forms are moving through and coming to the forefront. So we can really see that on this axis and this energy. Treating ourselves and incorporating ourselves into the alignment of the energy of healing and holistic awareness. The full moon is always a culmination. It's a peak of energy, of clarity. And taking care of how we're feeling, um, and how we are doing as an individual. But it's also because the South Node is releasing who or what do we need to release in our service to them. And because Virgo is a sign of service. And is there a new clarity and awareness that's suddenly shifting with this lunar eclipse? Jupiter and Neptune are the rulers of this eclipse. And so you can kind of get this energy that's manifesting of justice and judgment, is how I feel about Jupiter and Neptune. That Neptune is judgment. Like Neptune is in relation to the spiritual realms. And if you read in biblical texts, the judgment day or judgment or information about how you've lived your life. Jupiter is very much also about your belief systems, and it's the old ruler of Pisces. So there is justice here, morality and ethics that come into play. Now, Pisces is ruled by Neptune in the new astrology. And Neptune with the cards is the hangman, the holding back, stalled, waiting for something, waiting for confirmation. And it also rules the oceans and this deep, dark energy that we don't see necessarily. Jupiter is the wheel of fortune and is also connected to the moon. So we have the turning of the tides here with the oceans, the turning of the wheel in terms of we're at a standstill and we're waiting for the wheel to turn before before the tides begin to shift. Now, Mercury is close to the sun, at this ready to conjunct the sun. And it is always this point of new information coming out from leaders as the messenger comes towards the king to impart some sort of information that has been given to him. So Mercury is instrumental here, and Mercury is the magician, the persuasion of something, the information and the communication. But Virgo is the hermit. So we get this real secretive energy again, isolated, the learning, and what needs to be imparted and what doesn't need to be told. And really, the fact that anything is possible, right? In if you mix this Mercury and Virgo together, and that's the ruler of Mercury. Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. You get the Ten of Pentacles, and the Ten of Pentacles is really saying that anything really is possible. As long as we can come up with the right plan, the right information, and the right ingredients, like alchemy, which is connected to Pisces, and we can actually manifest our dreams and what we need to do here. But because we're on a South Node energy with Mercury and the Sun, we need to release certain concepts or certain belief systems that we perhaps at one time worked really well for us, but are no longer working that well. So there is change coming with this eclipse, with all eclipses. There's major shifts that are happening that we need to be aware of. And the moon, of course, is deceptive. And the moon card is, we don't really know. We're only going by the light of the limited light of the moon. And of course, Cancer is about family connections and communities. And it's also about a larger picture of a country. So this really is a very active eclipse energy. It's going to turn blood. It's going to be a blood full moon that emerges. It's a total lunar eclipse, so very emotional. We could feel really weepy. It's quite lengthy. This eclipse is going to be one of the longer eclipses we've experienced. In totality, it's going to be 1 hour, 22 minutes. So it's a long process. So be prepared that some of the events unfolding or opening up to us could be a long period of time. It's going to be visible over Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia. So some pretty pivotal continents and countries. Uranus has just stationed, and we have all of the outer planets in retrograde station now. So we have this review process that is manifesting. And we need to be aware that, yes, there are new things that are opening, but our direction with the sun in Virgo could be saying maybe you need to take a different stance, set different goals. And some things could emerge with this eclipse that sends you on a new journey. Emotionally, I don't want to do this anymore. It is really an energy that is polarizing because of the emotion that's attached here. And we could have two sets of values that begin to emerge. And so the ruler is Mercury, and that could really tap into some of our negotiations with other countries or alliances with other countries. But because the Mercury is in Virgo, this is really going to tap into the workforce. And the workforce and those institutions that are related to service, such as the police, hospitals, nurses, doctors, especially those, anybody who's in a position, the airlines service, but also the trade. Trading is under the merchant is ruled by Mercury. So we have the merchant also in play here. And how that negotiation is going. And it's in opposition to the moon, and the moon's in the sign of Pisces. So are the people happy with what the leaders are providing us in their service to us, the people in the democracy? This can be polarizing due to trade and distribution of goods and services. And there's a review going on because all these planets are in retrograde. So just prior to this eclipse, we have Saturn, which goes retrograde. So that stability shifts. And there's a big energy here with both Saturn and Uranus at the beginning, just before this lunar eclipse, because they're moving like slow ships turning around. So Saturn is in Aries, and it's, do I have all the resources? Do I have the foundation built for me to sustain my direction forward? Then right in between that, we get a couple things happening both on the 3rd and the 5th. The Mercury is going to square Uranus. So we could enter into this eclipse season with issues surrounding storms and earthquakes and shocking events happening and trade negotiations falling apart and renegotiations having to begin. There's a big shift that takes place. And it's because we're heading into the eclipse, but also because we have these things happening pre-eclipse. Then we have Mars squaring Jupiter, and this is like a reaction to like a belief system or something morally and ethically isn't right. So and the judicial system is involved here. So we could have some activity with justice and the legal system in connection to an action that is taken. Now, Mars is in the sign of Libra and it has trouble in this position making a decision because it's polarizing. It sees both sides and it changes its mind. It can't make up its mind. So it's kind of trepidous, I guess. And then Uranus right on top of this eclipse stations retrograde. So that really brings up this ability to create sudden storms and really instability in the atmosphere, the weather systems. And it's kind of disruptive. There's a lot of disruption going on. There's a lot of energy here in this eclipse. And so you really need to watch what you're doing around the beginning of September and heading in through the first eclipse. Then we get a lull, but we're still in eclipse season until we hit the next eclipse on the 21st of September. So we have this energy emerging. There is justice, there is judgment, there is like a stalling or a stopping. And then we have Uranus like churning the oceans and churning everything up and bringing secrets out. And this is disruptive for both the industry, the workers. We could have strikes again. We could have stalls, a lack of negotiation going on here. So we really don't get to a point of renegotiation until probably around the 18th of September when Mercury moves into Libra. So the moon is applying to a trine to Jupiter and is plugged into this grand trine that's connected to Black Moon Lilith. Now, Black Moon Lilith likes to walk on the darker side of the street, and she's about risk taking. She's kind of rebellious or a rebel. She doesn't like to listen to anybody, and she wants to walk her own path and do her own thing. But she can be really disruptive. She can cause riots and revolution and stepping out of what is normal into something that's different or strange. So we have this beautiful trine, which could bump up the housing or the real estate industry and because Jupiter is in Cancer, and their protection of our sovereignty on our land, our tribal connections with each other. But we're stepping out of protocol and we're stepping out of what could be considered the norm or ethically bound to us. And we have full leeway to do this, to do something out of the ordinary. And Black Moon Lilith is in Scorpio. So this is shared values, what we share as a society, not only with our finances through the banking system, but also our consent that, yeah, that sounds right. Sure. that person's doing that. That's probably maybe not a bad thing to do. Maybe I'll do it. Now, Neptune is retrograde and so is Saturn. So there's a hesitation here with pulling the trigger, I guess you could say. We're stalled and we're waiting for something. Even though we have a lot of fresh new ideas that are very constructive, the projects get halted. They're not abolished, but they're stalled. So that could be because of all this other disruptive shifting that is taking place. There is an opportunity here for advancements, but they require careful thought, strategy, determination, and cooperation. So, you know how they say somebody's misfortune is somebody else's gain? And this could really play in to some of what's happening with this eclipse energy. Venus is at 15 degrees of Leo. And 15 degrees is always an important point with a sign because it is the midpoint in the sign. So it's represented in this energy of planning, organization, and shining your light out to the world. It's ruled by the sun in Virgo. And so there is planning, discernment, organization, and there could be projects emerging here that say, look at the way you're doing things right now within relationships. Your need to be the center of attention isn't working, and you need to restructure that protocol, whether it's a business partnership or whether it's a full-blown relationship. The sun is joined to the south node, and that means change for leaders, change of leadership. It could be the health of a leader, a prominent leader in the world as well, that they are struggling from some sort of health. And there's shifting patterns that take place here with the Virgo and the challenge to release. Because Virgo is one of the signs that likes to finish it up. It doesn't want to just let it go. It wants to finish the job. So we need to adjust as we go along here. You need to be patient and you need to be cognizant during eclipse season of what is happening around you and the people around you. And before you react, you need to, because Mars is struggling here, you need to take into consideration everybody's point of view. Now in Canada, this eclipse is going to happen in the 6th house of workers and employees, jobs, people's jobs. And that is a good thing, except it's sitting right on top of the south node in the Canadian chart, pretty much right on top of that at 17 degrees. That means there's a shifting climate taking place and changes emerging in how we work in this country. And the labor force, the workforce, the unemployment rate, people who are striking and unhappy with their work in general, and what are they doing? Are they being productive, or are they just wasting time? There's an element of health here and the health of the people within the workforce. So there's changes and a different shift could be taking place in how we work. Maybe a shorter work week, awareness of health issues related to work, and our need to also heal rifts and renegotiate some of those things. The sun, of course, with the south node is right on top of the north node in the 12th house, which rules our hospitals, our state of mind in this country, and that we do need to rethink and reanalyze things. But this also indicates that there are secrets that are about to emerge, and our commitments and what we're committed to in the country of Canada. So it is really kind of polarizing. However, it is trining that Jupiter that's now in the 10th house of leadership. And so we can really see some support coming from leadership or government within the country of Canada to aid the transitions and the opportunities that are opening up. We could hear some big announcements over the next week or so about new projects and new labor jobs that are coming into full force in Canada that are different and that are really going to boost up the health and well-being of the population through this work, through the work industry. Now, the United States is kind of like a totally different energy, even though they're a cancer country, and they're a democracy. I use July 4th of 1776 at 5:10 p.m. With Sagittarius rising. And I always view the United States as having the people represent this optimism and this anything is possible and bigger than life energy, right? So this is the one that resonates with me, with the United States most. And some astrologers pick different charts with Gemini rising or Libra rising, but this really resonates with me with the moon at 27 degrees of Aquarius. Now, there's a lot going on in the United States aside from this lunar eclipse, but this lunar eclipse is tapping into the third house. And the third house is about the distribution of goods and services. It's about agreements, negotiations, trade agreements that are happening, and the possibility of new agreements happening and emerging for the United States with other countries and their alliances with those countries, because it's going to trine Jupiter, which is in the sign of Cancer in the United States. And so we have that in the seventh house of alliances and the connection to the world at large. So I can see that the United States is most likely going to come to some terms with those countries related to tariffs and agreements forming with other countries and come in line with these challenges before them. The polarization happens with some of the decisions that are made in the United States in relation to the judicial system. And even there, I think there's going to be some compromises made. But the South Node and the Sun are sitting in the ninth house of the judicial system and the courts, the higher courts, the Supreme Courts, and the decisions that are going to be made in some of these negotiations, and if they're valid or not. Some of them can be extreme because of the moon trining Jupiter, that there are extreme conditions associated with some of these negotiations and agreements. And that can be challenging for certain individuals or certain countries to deal with due to the impact that it's going to have in Cancer on their own people, and some of them even on their own people within the country, the United States. So there's a lot going on with the lunar eclipse and some big shifts that are taking place, that some issues could actually be thrown out of the court because of the south node. And Mercury is right there. So Mercury is close to the sun. And there's some secret information, because the third house is about information, that's going to have a real impact on the decisions of what's happening in the halls of justice. Universities could also be involved in some of this. There are protests here which open up a can of worms, and definitely there's instability because Uranus is sitting there as well. Now, Uranus in the United States is in Gemini, and Uranus in transit has just popped into Gemini. It's retrograde now, moving back into Taurus, but it's going to be in there again. So we have a lot of energy funneling into some protests, discontent within the unions, and worker instability. That also is about negotiations and renegotiations, in terms of stabilizing the employment, and stabilizing the United States of America, and how they're relating with their allies and who their allies are. So I just wanted to briefly pop into Canada and the United States, since we're supposed to be friends, and how this is going to impact these two countries and where this eclipse is going to happen with them. So if you have any questions, or if you'd like a personal reading with me, please get in touch with me at accsj@live.ca. That's my email. Or you can text me at 306-781-1300. So prepare for a little bumpy ride as we go through eclipse season in September. Bye-bye.